Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ogugwa Ajayi, and I'm a writer. I am also the 14th child out of 19 children. Yes, those numbers are correct. In my family, we used to joke that my father was a very, very, very busy man. But growing up in a family like mine taught you two very important life skills. One, how to compete for attention. And two, how to keep people interested once you finally get it. In that dynamic, you either had a very loud voice or a fascinating imagination. I chose imagination. You see, my very busy father introduced me to books, not as schoolwork. He said they were doorways into worlds, into minds. And as a little girl, I walked through those doors endlessly. I was always reading. I was always imagining. I was always somewhere between reality and invention. And that is how, from a young age, I fell in love with stories and storytelling. So now, walk with me back a few decades. Okay, lots of decades. Let me tell you a story. Boarding school was never a thing in my house. But my father decided that, do you know what, with the last set of his children, he wanted them to experience something new, build character, he said. The first to go was my immediate older sister. Let's call her the lucky number 13. The day she left, we sent her off goodbyes, well wishes, with a suitcase full of everything she could ever want or need. She came back at the end of term, half her size, with an empty suitcase. Now, this particular sister is extremely tight-lipped, so none of us ever found out what happened to her or the contents of this suitcase. To us, boarding school had become a black hole that swallowed you up, spat you out, slightly traumatized, and ate your luggage. Next in line was me. I resisted. Ooh, oh, how I resisted. It didn't work. The day I left, I was sure I had a one-way ticket to Never, Never Land, and not the fun kind. But I came back at the end of term, half my size, with an almost empty suitcase. But I came back with something else. I came back with stories. Now, one advantage of a family my size is that you're never short of an audience. I remember gathering my siblings. I confess now, sometimes willingly, sometimes not so willingly, but they gathered. And I will regale them with tales from boarding school. All I did was share my experience, put a positive spin on it, lace it with humor. They laughed. They listened. They leaned in. And then something began to happen. One by one, they stopped being afraid. They became curious, excited. And when their turn came, they went ready, bags packed, off for an adventure to return with stories of their own. The power of storytelling. I also remember creating stories for my younger ones to dramatize for the rest of the house. I remember the feeling of excitement watching the emotions my stories created. I was 13. A good story has a particular power. It has the power to captivate, entertain, educate, transport. But more importantly, it has the power to make people feel. And when people feel something, that's when belief occurs. As I told these stories, I was inventing worlds, characters, conflicts, resolutions, and without realizing it, I had stumbled on one of the most profound joys available to any human. The joy of creating something out of nothing, of taking an idea and giving it form. Some of the highest points in my life have come from doing exactly this, birthing and nurturing ideas, watching something that once existed only in my mind, watch it exist in reality. That feeling, indescribable. But there's something I strongly believe, that urge to create, that impulse, is not reserved for artists and writers and people that we call as a whole creatives. No, it is human. There is something within each and every one of us that yearns to create, to build, to shape, to express. Innovation at its core is an act of imagination. Before it becomes reality, it must exist as a story in someone's mind, a vision, what if? And that is why storytelling matters far beyond books and entertainment. It is how humans understand the world. Stories shape beliefs. Beliefs shape decisions. The decisions we make as a society shape all of us. Now, stories are also how humans define what we consider valuable, what we consider worth striving for. Let me give a few modern-day examples. Before Jeff Bezos got his dream of making Amazon an everything marketplace, it was first an idea: books. Publish, sell. But then at that time, websites weren't really popular. We trusted brick-and-mortar stores. So as it grew, the narrative began to change. The team at Amazon was talking about things like convenience, infinite choices, everything you need at the click of a button. Today, entire industries have been rebuilt on that same story. Example, Tesla. Electric cars existed way before Tesla. But they told us things like the environment, responsibility, the ecosystem. People weren't really into it. But Tesla came and they changed the narrative. They began to talk about different things. Instead of using words like responsibility, they said power. Instead of using words like sacrifice, no, they said the future. Tesla made the electric cars look cool. And today, that idea is becoming irresistible. Nations are built on stories. Stories of freedom, of identity. These aren't just ideas. These are narratives so powerful, they can compel millions to act, to build, destroy, sacrifice. If you look at it, a nation's history is just a shared story. A company is a story about value. A career is a story about purpose. Even our identities, the way we see ourselves, is built on the stories we have told ourselves about who we are and who we can become. So now this has led me to a very important realization, that everybody in this room is already a storyteller. If you're an entrepreneur, you're telling the story of solving problems. If you're building technology, you're telling the story of possibility. So the question isn't, oh, me, am I a storyteller? You are. The question is, what story are you telling? What future does your work imagine? What change do you hope to write into existence? Because at the end of the day, you and I are not that different. I tell my stories through novels, screenplays. You tell yours through ideas, inventions, code, through the different ways you choose to shape the world around you. Different mediums, same fundamental acts: creation, expression, impact. Now, I may not be that young child anymore, standing in a crowded family room, trying to keep her siblings interested. But if you look at it, nothing much has changed. I'm here hoping you're not bored to death. But not just me. All around the world, people are still doing exactly this. Standing in rooms, sharing ideas, imagining possibilities, hoping that somebody would listen. And the ones who change the world are those who can make us see what they see, believe what they believe, feel what they feel. The storytellers. Now, there's things I've learned in writing that cuts across every area of your life as you tell your story. 1, you will need people. No great masterpiece is ever created by one person. There are always people around helping. So be open to the stories of other people as you build yours. 2, stories are hardly ever linear. From point A to point B is not always as straightforward as you will hope or imagine. Let me give you a personal example, with my life. Which one should I use? My novel, Last Day, Love on the Dotted Line. It draws heavily from my many past lives as a lawyer and an early childhood educator. The book I'm going to release in June draws heavily from my experience as a serial entrepreneur. So don't be discouraged by the early drafts of your story. It's all part of the process. Embrace it. Because every problem you attempt to solve, every ambition you dare to pursue, is all part of the story that only you can tell. And the world, whether it knows it or not, is waiting for your story. So tell it. Tell it boldly. Tell it in a way that leaves the world different from how you met it. Maybe just like me as a little girl, when I discovered, like my daddy said, that books were doorways into entire worlds. And I decided that when I grew up, I was going to create worlds of my own. Because in the end, the future is built by those who dare to imagine and then find the courage to give that imagination form. Thank you.